Hey guys, welcome to thedirtytank.com. My name is Andrew, and today we're going to review and rate some tanks. These are real people's tanks. We're going to take a look at them, and I'm going to tell you my thoughts on each of these. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below, but without further ado, let's dive into this. Alright, tank number one. This one's not too bad, guys. Now, I really like the stand that it's on. I like the trim. It all is very cohesive. This tank is not too bad at all. I can see, it looks like a lot of Java fern in there. I do see some Amazon swords and maybe some jungle veil in the back. I can tell this tank hasn't been set up for too long because the plant growth isn't enormous quite yet. It will be. Those Amazon swords are going to get huge. I'll try to put a picture, but Amazon swords, they can get 3-4 feet tall. If you let them grow immersed, they can get even taller than that. I'm looking at the picture now and I can see a good bit of rainbows. It looks like a gourami. Looks like some tetras. It doesn't seem to be overstocked at all. I think this tank isn't too bad. I'm gonna give it a solid 7 out of 10. And I like how this tank, I like it when people can put the fake decor in with live plants and it incorporates it really well. Because sometimes it's pretty hard to do that. So 7 out of 10 for this one. Good job. This one's Aquarius approved here. All right, guys. This is tank number 2 here. This one's not too bad. It's not my thing. I'm not a fan of the skeleton inside tanks, but that's just my opinion. So I'm not going to take that into account. This one is creative though, right? It definitely gives a lot of nooks and crannies for your fish to hide. But if I look at here, it looks like we have some Brismani rainbows, maybe just one. I do see a couple gouramis. I may see maybe one platy, potentially. So this tank doesn't seem overstocked at all. They have a lot of air stone. I don't know if that's necessarily needed, but some people love the look of that. This one overall isn't too bad. I can tell this one is fairly new too, because some of these Amazon swords that I see in there haven't really grown and developed and gotten huge yet. So probably this one's gonna be at a 5 out of 10 just because it's not my thing. But I can definitely appreciate all the kind of hides it gives the fish here. Overall, 5 out of 10. Not too bad. All right, so this next tank is actually a before and after. This is pretty cool actually. So if you look at this now, it looks kind of bare. It needs some, I guess, bigger, larger plants in the back, right? So you have the shorter plants up front, the larger plants in the back, and I think it will really tie it together. If I look at this, I see one Neurite snail and one pea puffer. As far as plants, it looks like dwarf sag and maybe some cryptic corn in there, and that's about it. I do see a couple floating plants up top. I mean, overall, this is probably like a 3 or 4 out of 10. But guys, look at the after. This thing looks so good, right? The dwarf sag is growing in. It looks like these lilies are starting to grow in as well. I do see a little Placo. I see the pea puff in the right corner. So this tank is actually growing in. So a lot of times when people are planting their tanks, I mean, their plants are really tiny, they're brand new, and it doesn't look as great. Guys, give it like 2 months and those plants start to fill in. The background plants get really tall. Those foreground plants start spreading and it's gonna look good. So if your tank doesn't look good the second after you planted it, it's okay. Give it a couple months to let it develop. Trust the process, and your tank's gonna look really, really good. Overall, this is a solid 8 out of 10. This is an extremely simple scape that probably didn't take too much thought, and there's only a few combination of plants. I like it when there's only 1, 2, 3 types of plants most, but a ton of them, and this kind of does that very, very well. And it seems to be appropriately stocked, in my opinion. I only see maybe the Placo and the dwarf pea puffer there. There could be other fish in here, but that's what I see. Overall, this tank looks pretty darn good. All right, here's our next tank, and this one's not too bad. This is another one that looks fairly new. There's all kinds of fish in here. I see a good bit of guppies. I see some tetras in there. I see 1 or 2 Corydoras. I would recommend getting more Corydoras. I do see 2 aquatic frogs in there. Those guys are cool. There's just a lot going on in this one. So this one here, the plant choices cactuses aren't too bad. You got a lot of stem plants. Now with those grow really fast, but they're not very helpful unless you trim them and replant them, right? Because one can just grow really fast, but if you trim it, replant, and then you get 2, and then you trim it again, then you got 4, and then 8, and then 16. And so, you know, just because stem plants grow fast, it doesn't mean it's helping your water unless you do the propagation and the maintenance, right? If you do, yes, they're going to be amazing for your water quality. And so I hope this person does the same thing there. I do see it looks like maybe the jungle veil in the back is kind of brown. It's not doing as hot. My guess is just probably because it's a new tank type of thing, so it's getting used to the transplant. I do like the stand that it's on, right? That's kind of what stood out to me. A good looking stand. Even though it's not quite part of the tank, I'm still kind of rating it. Overall, I'll probably give this one a 6 out of 10. Not too bad. This one looks pretty good. Oh ho ho ho! This one looks good. Like this one, this guy's a professional. This guy has some experience. I love the, what do you call this? Like a poldarium, a riparium? Like what do you call? When is it? At what stage is it? What, right? I really like the immersed piece of wood. I love the shallow tanks. This rectangle shallow tank is absolutely beautiful. As far as underwater plants, only see some moss and maybe some boost, and that's about it. I'm not sure what kind of aquatic critters in there. I'm guessing shrimp, maybe some small chilies may be in there, but I only see just a couple shrimp, to be honest. And this one, I don't even think this one's about the shrimp or the critters. This one's about just the scape itself, and I'm okay, right? In my opinion, there's really only 2 types of fish keepers. Those in it for the fish and those in it for the scape. This guy's definitely in it for the scape, and there's nothing wrong with that because this is an absolutely beautiful scape he has here. I like the land moss. I see some parlor palm back there. Maybe that's some pennywort growing there too. Maybe some pothos sticking out. Overall, this is a really good tiny tank. This is a good desktop tank. I may have to make one of these in the future. This guy or gal just inspired me. This one's gonna be a good 10 out of 10, guys. Love it, absolutely love it. Oh, this one's good. This reminds me of one of my tanks back in the day. Look at all that green. So those in the back are Amazon swords. They're gonna get huge, which is great for these type of live bearer fish that they have in there. I see some dwarf sag, I see some bacopa. I see 1 strand of guppy grass. That's in a month, that's gonna explode. There's gonna be like a whole wad of it. And guys, the more I look at this, the more guppies I see. I see 2 main guppies, but if you look closely, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I see 10, 11. I see a whole bunch of baby guppies like this big. The more you look, the more fish just jump at you, right? You can see the 2, looks like platies potentially. I see the autosynclus in the middle. I see some corridoras. What do you got? 3 speckled and 2 aninus corridoras there. Not too bad. You got the water sprite up top. I think this is a really good looking tank. It has a ton of plant growth. You got appropriate number of fish to an extent here. I see some pest snails doing their job. I love seeing pest snails in tanks. Overall, I think this is a good 8 out of 10. No, 9 out of 10. I love this tank because all the plants are in the back and to the sides. You have that small open area. So the fish, whenever they want to swim around, they can, and you can see them. And then when they want to hide out, they can, and they have that option. I'm really liking this tank, guys, and this one looks extremely simple to set up. It looks like very minimal hardscape, maybe just a handful of rocks in there. Really great tank. All right, guys, I think we have our first not so hot one. This one here looks like maybe they haven't done a water change in a while because the evaporation is pretty low. It looks like there's a lid on the tank, which tells me it must be a while for it to reach that much evaporation, and there's a ton of fish. Most of them seem to be gasping for air. I could be wrong. If I look at the plants, I don't think there's any live plants. All those seem to be fake plants. If you're gonna overstock a tank, you know, sometimes it happens. You have an explosion of babies, right? Make sure you have a ton of plants, specifically floating plants, whether it's duckweeds, dwarf water lettuce, red root floater, Sylvania minima. Any of those will really help, you know, keep your water healthy during maybe that transition phase when you have a really overstocked tank before you can sell or give them off or or get other tanks, right? I'm not going to tell you not to get another tank. Definitely do if you need to, and if it's within your budget and maintenance. This one needs some help, right? This one needs some more plants. It maybe need a bigger tank. I'm not sure the size of this tank here, but this one is going to need some love here. I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 10. All right, our next tank is looking pretty good. I can tell this one was probably recently scaped, which is why it's kind of cloudy. This one's probably was recently set up. I'm looking how clean the substrate is. So this one's probably a few days to a week being set up or rescaped, whatever it happens to be. I do like the plant placement, right? So this person knows what they're doing, right? Taller plants in the back, shorter plants up front. It looks like they may have an Amazon sword up front, but I'm guessing that's a dwarf Amazon sword, so they don't get that big. I've had one before, and they've only grow that big max. I see some cryptocorin in there, and I see a lot of stem plants in the back. So overall, this one isn't too bad. I think in a month, this would look amazing. Once you propagate those stem plants and they fill in the back, it's gonna look absolutely beautiful. It really is. It looks like they have the spiderwood combined with the dragonstone. I'm not a fan of dragonstone, but a lot of people are, and in this scape, I think it's working. It really is. I really like the substrate. I like a natural color looking substrate that's mixed in with other rocks and pebbles that gives it a more natural feel, and I think that's what this one's doing. So I think right now this is a 6 out of 10, but I think in 2 months time this could be an 8 or 9 out of 10. So really good tank here. All right, next tank. This one's not half bad. Now I'm not a fan of fake decor or fake plants. You know, I like real plants in mine. But this one's not too shabby. It's kind of working. I wish there was more plants, especially in the back, but it just seems well laid out with what they have. As far as stocking, it looks like a few different types of platies, maybe a couple mollies in there, sprinkled in, and maybe that's it. I don't see too many other. If I look at it, I don't know if any of these plants are real besides the Anubias in the back middle. I think the other ones may be plastic. I could be wrong, right? I do like the hides that they give the fish here, even though these types of fish are mainly going to be out in the open, so they may not specifically be designed for these fish here. But overall, not a bad tank, right? You don't have to have a ton of live plants in order to have a great aquarium. In this one is probably more about the fish than it is about the scape, right? Some people just want to see the fish, and there's nothing wrong with that. Overall, I'm going to give this one a 6.5 out of 10. All right, so we've probably all been here. This looks like an algae bloom, right? It's hard to tell. It looks like there's no live plants in there, so that's contributing to the algae bloom. But even if they did, right, you're probably gonna get an algae bloom if you leave your lights on for too long, right? So my guess is they leave their lights on all the time, or they turn it on in the morning and they turn it off when they go to bed type of thing. If you want to prevent an algae bloom, I suggest putting a timer on your light, right? If you have no plants, you want between 4 and 6 hours, right? If you have some plants, maybe between 5 and 8 hours. If you have a lot of plants, you know, maybe between that 6 and 8 hours. Now, if you're doing like CO2 injections, weekly water changes, and the key is weekly water changes, not just CO2 and fertilizer. But if you're doing a high-tech thing, yeah, you can have that, you know, 10 to 12, 13 hours. That mainly means that you need a lot of water changes in order to prevent algae blooms like this. Algae is not bad at all, so the fish are fine. They don't seem to be gasping for air. It's just an eyesore, right? I would recommend cutting way back on light if this happens to you. All right. So this is another one that looks to be recently planted. All the plants are fairly short. I see some bacopa, some jungle val, looks like some Amazon sword as well, some other stem plants in the back. I would suggest moving the Amazon swords to the back because those things are going to get huge. This one at current stage, it's like a 5 out of 10 because it's not too bad. It seems like a decent sized tank. I love the natural gravel. I love the wood and the plants intermingling. In like 2 months, this tank is going to look amazing, like maybe an 8 or a 9. It's going to look really good. Guys, trust the process. If your tank looks like this when you just set it up, give it a month and it's going to look look really, really good soon. I can tell already. All right, so our next tank, this one isn't too bad at all. There's no live plants in here. It's all fake decor, but I think this is a scenario where it's extremely simple. It's about the fish, and it doesn't look bad. Now, these look to be maybe rainbow fish. It's hard to tell. I think they're maybe a dwarf rainbow potentially, but it looks pretty good, right? I would suggest probably adding, you know, a few more of those fish and just make a larger school. I think that would be really cool. He's probably gonna have to dial down the light. I'm not sure how long they keep the light on, but if you don't have any plants, you know, keep it 4 to 6 hours and you're not gonna get a terrible bunch of algae, right? And if you're not a planted tank guy, you can always throw in floating plants and that will help control some algae growth as well. But overall, this tank isn't too bad with the decor that it has. I'm gonna give this one a 6.5 out of 10. Oh, another cube tank. And this one's looking good. This one has like that jungly look, but it's well laid out, right? The tall plants are in the back, the short plants are in the front. I can see a ton of floating plants up there. This is gonna be a healthy tank. If I look at the fish, it looks like guppy, guppy, guppy. I think they're all guppies in here. I could be missing some fish, but this is an appropriate tank for some guppy. Definitely a low maintenance tank, right? If you want a low maintenance tank, throw some wood, throw some rocks, throw some plants, throw some live bearers, and you're good to go, right? I love the color of the substrate. I like Soreyu stone. I'm a big fan of Soreyu stone. I think that's pennywort up front. That's pretty cool. I love that plant. If I can keep it alive, I would use it much more often, but I find I have trouble keeping it alive. I'm still trying to fine tune that one. If you got any advice on that, drop it in the comments below. But overall, I'm really liking this small tank. I'm gonna give it a 7.5 out of 10. This was pretty good. All right, so this one's not too bad. I'm not sure why the heater's in the front. I would put the heater in the back to hide it, but that's just my 2 cents. I do see the little cone, so that means they're feeding like either live food or frozen food, so I can appreciate that. Good job treating your fish. Every once in a while, give them something good, right? I do see a couple angels. They're probably gonna outgrow this tank. Not 100% sure how large this tank is, but they may need to upgrade soon. I do like the Amazon sword in the middle, just starting to really grow, and the jungle veil, like it's strands just going across. This one looks pretty good. Just a few tweaks I would make, but I mean overall, it's working. So I would give this one a solid 6.5, maybe 7 out of 10. If we change the stocking a little bit, but not too bad. All right, this tank's looking pretty good. I'm liking the way this one's looking. I think that's tiger lotus growing. You can see it has new leaves at the bottom. The older leaves are up top, floating already. I see a few different varieties of Amazon sword. These are some of the fancier Amazon swords that they have in the back there. Give it another month, and those Amazon swords are gonna take over everything. Now, I only see one type of fish in the middle, just those tetras. And I'm kind of impressed with that because it's really easy to get sucked in. Let me get this fish and this fish and this fish. And then you have like 20 different fish. There's nothing wrong with that. I do that all the time. But I can really appreciate when someone knows, no, you know what? I want one type of fish that's a schooling fish that's small, and I want a bazillion of them. That is pretty cool because he probably has like 20 fish right there and they're all the same tetra just hanging out. Overall, not a bad tank at all. I'm going to give this one an 8.5 out of 10. In another month, this is gonna look really, really good. All right, next tank. This one I could tell was just set up. You can tell all the bubbles in a horizontal line growing across the tank. You know, anytime you did a big water change, you see that coming up. So either a big water change was just done or this tank was recently set up. One of the two here. Now this one isn't too bad. This one, it kind of feels nice. It'd be nice if there was a larger background plants for some of these fish to navigate in, especially that red-tailed shark. It loves to navigate stuff, so a lot of plants will be great for that guy. I think I see a bala shark in the left-hand corner. Those things get huge. I'm not sure how big this tank is, but it doesn't quite look big enough for that fish in the future, right? I also see a roseline shark, I think, in there. Both of these fish are going to get fairly chunky and may outgrow this tank. so may have to do an upgrade soon. This one's not too bad. If I look at the plants, most of them look fake with the exception of maybe the Java fern. So in a month time, this isn't gonna look any different, right? So I would suggest some Amazon swords, some jungle val in there, some dwarf hairgrass, some stem plants, any of those that are gonna grow quickly and you can really propagate, because Java fern, although it's like indestructible, it doesn't grow the quickest or get very large, and it takes some time to get there. Overall, I'm gonna give this a 5 out of 10. And our last tank to look at. This one's looking really cool, guys. Now, they have like some kind of immersed growth area between the tank and the very top where the light is. So I feel like a ton of what are those things? Pothos can grow out of there, or it looks like they have some spider plant up top as well. This one's not too bad, and the scape itself looks pretty good. Now, I'm a really big fan of the lowly lit tanks, and so you can see this one's kind of mysterious. There's some shadow in it, right? It isn't blaring with light, so the fish probably feel comfortable. I really like this one. I like the triangle composition, so on the left-hand side it's fairly tall, and then it kind of tapers down. Now, I could tell that the Amazon sword's fairly young, so like in a month or two, like it's really gonna fill out, and the Amazon sword's gonna block a lot of the light, so they may need to add another supplemental light to the right-hand side to combat that, or do a lot of trimming. But overall, not a bad tank, not a bad setup. Like I like the cabinet too. So I'm gonna give this one an 8.5 out of 10. Really good. Let me know which one was your favorite tank down in the comments, and that's gonna wrap up this video, guys. I'll see you next time.